Under organized circumstances, low and stuff, but I don't know if you have in mind, but
Yeah, so that's what I need to know.
So therefore, we should not say disparaging about.
You said Mike is real sensitive. Oh, the Mike.
Oh, take it. Thank you.
Under normal circumstances, I would be welcome to here. I'm not for the conversation. I'm staying short. What is your name?
I'm Joel.
Oh, okay. Well, nice to talk to you.
One older. And the oldest is out on the internet.
Okay, and where's home for you?
Prayers for 13.
Okay.
With my wife.
Your parents are one.
They are also.
Zoom service last night.
Yes.
And
In our basement.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's nice. Okay, well, good for them, good for you.
Yeah.
Any good children?
Yes, we have three. I think she has 2 boys and a girl.
At home or gone out of the house?
All out of the house. They are, my children are there.
In the local area, our daughters are
Steve, this is you over here.
Oh, that's fine. Thanks.
So all the way to our grade, so they have great.
Wow.
And at least one.
So you must consider it.
About 5 years.
I've got it.
It's a company.
And welcome.
Thank you.
But I just don't normally do this. Anybody who's here is, I don't know.
Nadia and you guys are back here.
One of my things I like to do is this.
All the way over to I was very. At some point. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay. What's up here?
My parents are on.
Good morning. You're not going to be here all.
That's your parents. Oh, Brian's on. So we have Brian and Maggie.
closer. Chris, there you are. How are you guys?
What time?
It is now 10:24. 6 minutes to go. 10:25, 5 minutes to go.
Yes.
Oh, there they are. Nice.
Ryan? Is there?
Carolyn Iron. Oh, Peter.
You probably should mute your mic.
Just in case whoever's running the Zoom doesn't know this, whoever has control of it can mute everyone automatically.
Just a few housekeeping matters before we get started.
12. Get everybody here to do that. Everybody always thinks theirs is off, so please make sure you double check. Now, everybody knows we tried to do this last year, but then COVID had some different plans for us, so now we're here this year. So I'm very happy that everybody could make it very good showing. We have a lot of people that are joining us by Zoom because of travel restrictions or other reasons. As you notice, we're going to use the front of the building as an entrance to the building. So after the service is over, we're going to be going outside for lunch. Okay. But we are going to ask everybody to look over to that door that says exit back there. That's the door we're going to use to exit the sanctuary. If anybody has to get up during the service, you can feel free to go out that door. And when you come back in, come through the top door. Okay? We did ask our helpers up front to just remind everybody to be kind of which direction to walk into. I know some of us have been here and we're very used to just walking anywhere we want. But because of the nature of the event, we want to make sure that everybody can try to be as safe as we can. Inside the sanctuary, inside the building, we are requiring masks at all times. If you need a mask break, feel free to step outside. When we are outside for lunch, if everybody can try to stay socially distant from a different group while you're eating, put that mask on. But then you put your mask on and then sit together. I think that happens a lot. The bathrooms are out here in the hallway if anybody needs them. Okay, so you're guys are gonna get a few more minutes, about 2 more minutes, and then we're gonna get started. So thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rabbi John Schlachter. It gives me great pleasure to lead the service this morning. This is a traditional Saturday morning service in the synagogue, what we call Shabbat or Sabbath morning service is held every Shabbat morning. But this particular one is an opportunity for us to formally welcome Max Heitman to the circle of adult Jewish people. And it's a real privilege for me to do this. I know that a year ago, we had hoped to have a public acknowledgement of Max's elevation to this, this group of Jewish adults worldwide. And as Jen said, COVID took a different route for us. Max is already technically an adult member of the Jewish people, and you become that by reaching the age of 13. So there's really no requirement to have a ceremony to mark the occasion. You're fully responsible for your own actions starting at the age of 13 in Jewish tradition, but it's wonderful when somebody chooses to acknowledge it in a public way. It makes it much more meaningful. So this will be a traditional Saturday morning service, but it'll be a little bit different from what we would have had pre-pandemic. I'm going to streamline the service a bit so that we minimize the amount of time indoors, despite the social distancing and the masks and all that. I think just minimizing the time has some advantages. I will tell you that I appreciate that you observe all the requirements that have been placed on us. It's very important that this be a healthy and joyous occasion for everyone. Often when I give remarks from the podium, my biggest fear is that the congregation is filled with people who are yawning. One of the great advantages if you all wear masks, I won't know. So if you feel like yawning, you're welcome to go ahead and do that. Dozing off probably is a little more obvious, but nevertheless, I think we'll keep the service to a little over an hour. Those of you who are not familiar with a Saturday morning service in a traditional synagogue might think that sounds long, but believe me, that's a very truncated service. For you to participate in this worship experience, I need to give you a little bit of a guide ahead of time. You should have a blue book that says Sidur Hadash. That's basically our guide for the service this morning. That book is bilingual. It should be in the little ledge underneath your chair. There should be a blue book. And I believe there should be enough for everyone. I hope that's the case. This is going to be the guidebook for the bulk of the service. So if you currently don't have one, maybe we can move a few around because I don't want you to be lost. I do want to make this participatory as much as possible. So some of the passages will be in Hebrew, but some will be in English. And please join in with us to your comfort level. This book, because it's bilingual, they have to make a choice. So these actually are, the books go from right to left instead of the other way around. That's the direction that Hebrew is read from right to left. But the pages are all numbered, and usually the page on the left is the English and the page on the right is the Hebrew. And I'll try to clue you in as we go so that you know where we are. But again, we're going to basically be going backwards from what you're used to for an English language book. And you have one other book that's of importance. This one will not be used throughout the service. It'll only be used during part of the service. It's a much heavier, bigger book called Heitman, Tree of Life is what that means literally. It's a big red book, and those might be distributed so that people have to share. Again, that's only going to be used for part of the service, but it's the high point of the service. Behind these doors is not the Wizard of Oz. Behind these doors are 3 Torah scrolls, what we call the 5 books of Moses or the Torah. They're written out by hand on parchment. We're going to remove one of those scrolls from the ark and do a reading from that scroll. We have basically a 52-week sequence where we go through the entire 5 books over the course of a year. And we happen to be midway through the year right now. So one of those scrolls has been pre-rolled to the section that's appropriate for this Shabbat. And worldwide, everybody is doing that same section on this Shabbat. and Max is going to do a portion from that scroll. It's quite a difficult thing to chant Hebrew from the scroll. The scroll has no punctuation, it has no vowels, it has no singing marks. So it requires a fair amount of effort in advance to learn that. Max had one thing going against him, the pandemic and the disruption in the original plan. And yet you could argue he had one thing in his favor. He's had an extra year to practice. You would think that that was used to great advantage. I'm sure that pretty much every day during the pandemic, Max was studying these materials for today. Maybe he missed a day or two. But in any case, when we get to that part of the service, you'll know because we're going to open the ark, we'll take the scroll out, and then I'll give you some page numbers in the red book. If you don't have one of these red books and you really want to be following along for that section, we have some other books that have the same materials, but they have different page numbers. This gentleman over here is the one who would be helping out through the service. Under normal circumstances, he would be up here with me, he would be helping with the flow. We're trying to be health conscious. Nevertheless, he's still here at our disposal to help out with things. So if you find yourself in need of a book or some confusion about pagination or something like that, Steve will be glad to assist. So let's see, do I have other remarks? I don't think so. Bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, that's the feminine analog, literally means sort of like son of the commandment, which is not a very easy phrase to interpret literally, but what it really means is somebody who has been elevated to the status of being responsible for fulfilling the commandments in Jewish tradition. That means that all the things that are incumbent on an adult Jew become incumbent on somebody who reaches the age of 13. And all the privileges that come with that also become part of that person's repertoire. And so various parts in the service this morning are reserved for somebody who is an adult member of the congregation. And Max will take a lead role in many of those parts this morning to mark his acceptance of these responsibilities and these privileges. One of those privileges is wearing a prayer shawl. It is a tradition for Jewish, originally Jewish males, now maybe somewhat more egalitarian Jewish adults, to wear a prayer shawl during prayer. What makes this special are these fringes on the corners. It's a fringe garment. And why a fringe? It has a very interesting analog in colloquial American tradition, if you will, of tying a string around your finger as a way to remember something. These fringes actually serve exactly the same purpose. They're a reminder of the commandments in Jewish tradition. And because they are incumbent on one who is an adult member of the Jewish community, that's when we first start to wear the fringe garment. So we're going to start off our service on page 142 in the blue book, our prayer book. And again, when I give a page number, you're welcome to look at the facing page for the English. I may forget at times to clue you into that, but we're up at the top of pages 142 and 143. And you'll see it says the talit, that's the name of this garment, this fringe prayer shawl. And you see it even says a reminder of the mitzvot, a reminder of the commandments. As I've said, those fringes serve as that reminder. And because this marks the occasion of Max officially accepting his responsibilities as a bar mitzvah, as a member of the commandment group, he is going to receive a prayer shawl from his parents, and he will recite the blessing at the top of page 142 before he places the talit on. And let me just say that it's a tradition to recite this blessing and then put the shawl on. If you have brought your own shawl and you have not yet put it on, this would be the opportunity for you to do that as well. And I'll now ask the Heitmans to make a presentation.
Heitman Bar Mitzvah.
We're going to ask the parents to do a special reading now. If you want to follow along, it's on page 862 in the back of the book, page 862.
With gladness and thanksgiving, we offer our prayers as our son becomes a bar mitzvah. We give thanks for the wondrous privilege of seeing our son grow day by day, week by week, year by year, for the health and strength you have given him, for the mind and spirit which you endow him, for his ability to elicit and return love, for all of those precious gifts we offer thanks. Watch over him, O God, on this special day and every day. Grant him a growing understanding of the significance of this occasion and a deepening loyalty to all that it represents. May the teachings of our heritage guide him throughout life, and may he lead a life worthy of your blessings. Amen.
Amen. And there will be many opportunities during the service this morning to say amen. Amen really means in the context of these prayers that we affirm what has just been stated. So whether you are familiar with the prayers or not, if you want to join in with the prayers, you're welcome to. But if you simply say amen at the end of many of these prayers, you've affirmed that what was said is it's like me too, okay? So that's really what amen means. Let me also acknowledge that we have a wonderful turnout here this morning of friends and family. We also have people who are Zooming in for this, and I appreciate this hybrid technology. There are people who could not be here this morning with us for one reason or another. But you are part of our community this morning as well, and I hope each of you watching, as well as each of you here, feels incorporated into the joy of this morning's service. We turn now to page 140, and this passage, we've been using this with our Zoom services for over a year now in the Jewish Center of the Mauritius, to start out our services at the top of page 140, but it has an extra special significance this morning because what it really means is that we are coming together in a special place. That special place has been metaphorical for the last year because it's been kind of an electronic ether space. This morning, that space includes this building, but we are not excluding those who are part of our electronic space as well. Max will lead us at the top of page 140, motto.
Thanks to your abundant kindness, O Lord, I am able to enter your house. God, I am before you in reverence to the sacred things of worship. Lord, I love to be in your house, the sanctuary of reputation of word. There worshiping your presence, O Lord, my maker. The presence of your strength, my mercy, and your abiding help.
Now, the next part of the service traditionally would include a series of blessings of gratitude. I'm going to skip over some of that, but rather than leave out the opportunity to be grateful, I'm going to give you each a moment to reflect how much we have to be thankful for. It's easy for us to think about the things that didn't happen. We didn't get to do this a year ago. We didn't have certain family members able to join physically with us. We didn't get to experience graduation or whatever it is. Some of us have experienced some health issues, but we have a lot to be grateful for. And it is traditional on a Sabbath morning in particular, and especially one as joyous as this, to count our blessings literally. So I'm going to give you a moment to do that, and then we'll resume our service on page 218, page 218. We're at the top of page 218. Shochen Marom Vekadosh Shemo Vekaturat Menuk Tzadikim Adonai Laisharim Navatehila Vefin Yisharim Pitama V'dinei Tzadikim Pitara V'vilshon Kasidim Tehim Rama V'vekeret Kedoshim in the middle of page 219, let's read together that paragraph in the assembled. In the assembled throngs of your people, the house of Israel, you shall be glorified in song, O our sovereign, in every generation. For it is the duty of all creatures, Adonai our God and God of our ancestors, to thank and praise, laud and glorify, adore, exalt, and acclaim you, even beyond the songs of praise of David, the son of Jesse, your anointed servant. I'm going to ask you at various times this morning to rise if you're able, and this happens to be the first of those. And so if you're able, we're going to rise for the last paragraph on page 218, and you'll have an opportunity to sit in a little bit, not right away. Please turn now to page 224 and remain standing. And this is a passage that is formally a call to worship. Everything that led up to this point was kind of preliminary service, and now we start the official Shabbat morning service with a call to worship, and it is the privilege and the responsibility of an adult to call other adults to worship. And so this is an opportunity for Max to call all of us, both here physically in the building and those who are joining electronically, to join in our worship service for this Shabbat morning, page 224, the Bar of Hood. Let's read together in the English. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who forms light and creates darkness, who ordains the harmony of all creation. You can take a seat, please. This next section of the service is focused on some biblical passages, which are the central passages in Jewish tradition that affirm our faith in God, what we call the Shema. And the Shema is built into a sandwich structure with some blessings that come before it and some blessings that come after it. And in the center of that sandwich are these biblical passages referred to collectively as the Shema. We're going to jump over to page 237. Page 237. And the bottom of the page, where it says the power that heals, on page 237, has some lines or stanzas that are indented. Those are the congregational response, and Darren is going to lead us responsively in the power that heals.
God is the power that heals.
God can turn the universe.
When our bodies are wrapped in chains, we hear the whisper of fire. When we are gripped with icy tracks,
The Lord is.
when we feel alone and abandoned, we can hear the voice of the shrine.
I am with you.
When we are burdened with sorrow and grief, we can hear the dark valley of the struggle.
The Lord is right.
God is our source of strength and hope. We keep God near us and gain strength.
Now over on the facing page, page 236, the tail end of this blessing. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMeorot. We continue on page 238 with the second blessing preceding the Shema. And we're going to start with the last 5 lines in the Hebrew on page 238. And those are the last 6 lines transliterated at the bottom of the page. We're at the top of page 240, 241. This passage speaks about gathering people from the four corners of the earth. And because we have four corners of the prayer shawl, the tradition is to combine the four fringes together as we recite this passage at the top of page 240. Page 242, the central passages of this section, the Shema. I'm going to ask Max to lead us through pages 242 and 243. Page 243, Max.
You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. You shall take to heart these words which I command you this day. You shall teach them diligently to your children, speaking of them when you are at home and when you are away, when you lie down at night, and when you rise up in the morning. You shall bind them as a sign upon your arms, and they shall be a reminder above your eyes. You shall inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gate.
We're going to continue with a bit of silent prayer, and we're going to meet up again on page 252. So I'll give you some moments to go through the subsequent pages, 244 through 252. Adonai Elohei. On page 251, let's do this passage, our shield and redeemer in every generation, responsibly, page 251. You've been the help of our ancestors from days of old, a shield and a redeemer to their children in every generation. Happy is the person who obeys your commandments, who takes to heart the words of your Torah. You are the first and you are the last. Besides you, we have no sovereign or redeemer. You revealed your saving power at the sea when the children of Israel passed through in safety. Therefore they praised and extolled you. They offered you prayers of fervent thanksgiving. You humble the haughty and raise up the lowly. You free the captives and redeem the weak. On page 253, we'll just continue with two more stanzas, one for each. Give praise to God on high, ever praise may God's name be. And now I'm going to ask you to rise if you're able, and we continue this passage on page 252, and Max will lead us in the Hall. Our service continues in the standing position with a section known as the Amidah, which coincidentally means standing. This is a central part of worship services. In fact, it's what makes something a worship service as opposed to just getting together to recite some prayers. The Amidah is a prescribed sequence of blessings. On the Sabbath, it consists of 7 blessings, 7 being the number associated with the Sabbath, the days of the week. We're traditionally to do this entire section silently and then to repeat it. But in the interest of time, we're going to do the first 3 blessings in the Hebrew together, and then I'll give you some moments to complete the Amidah on your own. The Amidah will conclude on page 267. So after we finish the communal prayers on page 255, then I'll just give you the opportunity to pray silently, either using the text in the book or any other silent prayer that you want to use. And when you finish your silent prayer, please feel free to take a seat. We're on page 255. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu 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 Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor HaNorah El Elyon Gomel Chasakim Tovim Lekonem Zoker Kasei Avod, Umegi Koel Ibnei Chen, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach Umari, Baruch atah Adonai, Magid Avraham, Kudot Ketzara, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Metayeh Timatarav Le'Moshiach, Metakel Chaim B'Chesed, Metayeh Eitim B'Rachamim Rabim, Somet Noflim B'Rofet Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umegayeh Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Mikamo Chama Gevurot, Umigo Melah, Melech Mekidim, Umetayeh, Umasmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Atalat Hayot Mekim, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaMetim. We're going to continue on page 256 with the Kedusha. Nekadesh et Shemcha ba'olam, Yeshem Shmach Kishim Oto Yishmei Marom, V'al Yad V'yenta V'karetz El Zeh V'yamar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzedakot, Melech ha'aretz Kevodo, Az B'kol Ra'ash Gadol, Adir B'chazak Mashnikim, Kol Yishnaserim Le'matzerafim Le'matam, Baruch Yomeru, Baruch Yodai V'yikol. Yikol Chamakim Tokiyah V'timot Hanem V'timachakim Anachnu Lach, Mahatai Timot L'Tzion, V'karov Yameinu Le'olam Va'ed Tishkon, Tikadash V'tikadash, V'tov Yerushalayim Kircha, L'dor Hador Ol Netzach Netzakim, V'yeneinu Tirena, Tirena Malchutecha, Kadavar Ha'amor, V'shirei Uzecha, Ayedei Damim, Ayedei Damim, Ayedei Damim, V'shiach Tzidkecha, Yimloch Adonai Le'olam, Elohayim Tzion, L'dor V'ador, Hallelujah. L'dor V'ador Negim V'adlachal, Netzach Netzakim Kedushat V'anachit, V'shivchacha Eloheinu Nikinu Lo Yamush Le'olam Va'ed, Yehel Melech Gadol V'Kadosh Ata, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Please continue silently to complete the Amidah, and when you finish your silent prayer, please feel free to take a seat. Shalom Mibrona, Kuya se Shalom Aleinu, Be'alcho Yisrael, Be'imru Amen. Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Be'alcho Yisrael. Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Be'alcho Yisrael. Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Be'alcho Yisrael. Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu. Our service continues on page 306. Page 306. This is the long form or the complete form of the Kaddish prayer, and this one always follows the Amidah because it includes within it a passage that asks that God accept all of the prayers that we've just offered in the Amidah, the silent prayers, the prayers from the Lord. Page 306. This takes us up to the section of the service that is focused on the scroll, the part that's unique to this particular Shabbat. As I said, we're going to be reading from the scroll in a little bit, but there's a little bit of drama associated with opening the ark, with removing the scroll from the ark, and that's all part of what we call the Torah service. Torah meaning the 5 books of Moses. Torah in the broader sense meaning Jewish tradition or Jewish teaching. So you'll find the beginning of the Torah service on page 312, and you should enjoy sitting for a little bit longer because we're about to open the ark, and traditionally when the ark is open, out of respect, we stand. So you'll see in the middle of page 312, it says the ark is open. That's kind of the reminder. So if I forget to mention it, when the ark is open, that is a cue to be standing. Page 312. En kamo Elohim Adonai Ma'aseka Malchut Eka Malchut Kol Olamim U'Memshaltecha B'chol Dor V'Dor Adonai Melech Adonai Malach Adonai Yimlach Le'olam Va'ed Adonai We turn to page 320 as the Torah scroll is removed from the ark. We're going to use the one on the far left. Now, what we would normally be doing is that Max would be holding this scroll. This scroll weighs 900 pounds. Maybe not quite that, but it's pretty heavy. It's a very heavy Torah scroll. So we're going to symbolically have Max hold the Torah. We're on page 320, where you'll find again the Shema, that text that we did before. But before Max symbolically gets the Torah, we're going to do some transferring here. And to me, this is symbolic of the transfer of tradition from generation to generation. And it's not just starting with Max's parents. So I'm going to ask Max's grandparents to come up here as well. And so Hum and Sue, if you can just come up here representing tradition that Max has inherited with pride. And also with us, though not physically in the building, Marilyn and Larry are here. And I'm going to have you all take a moment, just a moment, to envision that the Torah scroll and the Jewish heritage is being transmitted to Max from one generation to another, and also the other traditions that are important in Max's heritage are also being transmitted to him. He has a singularly important heritage to maintain, and we take great pride in having grandparents up here. And so now, take a moment to envision that transmission of tradition, one generation to the next, transmitted now to Jen and Joel, and Joel and Jen transmitting that to Max as well. Now, the reason we're a little nervous about this is because if the Torah scroll drops, there's a tradition to fast for 40 days. And I don't know about you, but that would be a difficulty for me. So we're going to be very careful with the Torah scroll. And now we are in the book at the top of page 320, and Max is going to lead us on page 320. That's your cue that you need to book, Max. At the top of 320. Max is going to lead us in the Shema. He'll do it by himself and we'll follow. And he'll do the next line by himself and we'll follow with that as well. For the third line on page 320, it's traditional for the one carrying the scroll to turn and face the ark as we do the third line on page 320. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Gadol Shema, Gadol Adonai, Rama Shema Yahya, Adonai Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Please have a seat. Now you're going to need that other book that I talked about before, the Eitz Chaim. This is a printed copy of the 5 books of Moses, broken up week by week. And our parashah, our portion for this week, is known as Tazria Mitzorah. It comes from the book of Leviticus, and you'll find it in the Eitz Chaim on page 653. Page 653 in the red book. Page 653 in the red. So, right, page 653, this kind of jumps into the middle of this section for this week. We're not going to read the entire section for this week, we're just going to read a selection from it. And we're going to start at the very bottom of 653 with verse 9. This is Leviticus chapter 13, verse 9. And when we get up to the last of these 3 readings that we're going to listen to, we'll call Max up for the honor of the blessings that are done before and after the reading from the scroll, as well as reading from the scroll itself. For the first set of blessings, I'm going to call up Jen and Joel to take the honor of the blessings before and after the reading. And as I said, the reading from the scroll is going to be what you find in the Eitz Chaim starting on page 653. Yaakov ben Levi, Shoshana bat Abraham v'Sarah, Baruch Shnatan Baram Yisrael v'Kedushato, v'atem habitim b'Adonai Elohechem, v'yikvochem hayom.
Baruch Hu Adonai HaMorah.
Baruch Adonai Borach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMorah Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bahar banu mikol ha'alim, ונתן לנו את תורתו. Baruch Atah Adonai נותן התורה.
Amen. Negat Sarat ki tiyeh be'adam ve'uvad el hakohen v'ra'ah hakohen ve'hineh eiseh levanam ba'or ve'hi ha'achah se'ar lavan u'midyat basar chai ba'se'eh Sarat Noshem hi ve'or v'saro v'tim hakohen lo yaskilenu ki tamehu.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Toras emet, v'chayei olam atah v'tavinu. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. And I'll ask that you just stay up here. It's going to get a little crowded up here, but not too bad. And for the next Aliyah, we have the privilege of calling up Max's uncle, and I'll call you up by your Hebrew name, Yamod Yitzchak Ben Levi.
Baruch Hu es Adonai HaMavorah.
Baruch Adonai.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu v'kol ha'amin, v'nasan lanu es toraso. Baruch Atah Adonai nosein ha'torah.
Amen. V'imparot tibrah hatzarat da'or v'chisata hatzarat ekor hanega nerosho yad ragla l'chol mar'ei hakohen v'ra'ah hakohen v'hinei hisata hatzarat ekol b'saro v'tihar Hanega kulo ha'paklavan tahorku Svion hera'ot lo basar chai yitamah.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher nasan lanu toras emes, v'chayei olam notah b'safenu. Baruch Atah Adonai nosein ha'torah.
Amen. If you are following along in the 8th study, we are now on chapter 13, verse 15. You'll find that in the middle of page 654. Page 654. Our concluding lines for today will be 15, 16, and 17. And I'm going to call up our bar mitzvah for the honor not only of the blessings, but for the honor of reading from the scroll as well. Yamod, 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 As we call it, next, we need more Torah readers in the congregation, so you just got conscripted. That's not the last time. That was really wonderful. While we have the Torah scroll out, it's a very special time, so it's the time where we're going to include a prayer for those who are ill. And for this, you'll find in many of the blue prayer books, not in the red book, but back in the blue book that we were using, there's a little insert. If you have that insert on the last page, on the back side, you'll find what says Misha Berach at the top. Misha Berach, may the one who bless those who are here, may they bless those who are ill. May God bless those who are ill. So we have a lot of people here today. We're not going to have the opportunity to say all the names out loud. So I'm just going to give you a moment to think in your minds and think in your hearts of those who are ill, those who are in need of healing prayers. And when you have had the opportunity to hold them fixated, we will sing the Misha prayer. We're now on page 324 in the blue book. We're going to do a short version of the Kaddish. This is really punctuation in the service. It tells us that we finished the Torah reading for today. That's at the top of page 324. As soon as I finish reading that, then the Torah scroll will be lifted and we'll have the opportunity to tie it up and to dress it, but not yet put it away. So we're on page 324. Yikada, yikada, shemei rabba, ve'amad yirah, yirutei yalnei ma'utei, ve'nayeh manu yomecha, u'mayeh yemodei Yisrael, agala, agala, u'mizmakari, v'ru'amei, yidei shmei rabba mevarah, Please rise if you're able as the Torah scroll is lifted. Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael pi Adonai ve'yad Moshe. Torah, 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 Sinanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Sinanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Sinanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Sinanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Sinanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Sinanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Sinanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Sinanu Moshe. Please have a seat. We're back in the Red Book for what's known as the Haftarah. Haftarah is a tradition that came about more than 2,000 years ago, when, at least according to tradition, the Jews were forbidden to read from the 5 books of Moses. So they found a passage from other biblical writings that had kind of a similar theme, and it was kind of a workaround, a cheat to read something that gave the same message but wasn't violating the prohibition on reading from the scroll. At least that's a legend. We continue with that tradition today of reading from the prophets. Now, what I can tell you is that this required a lot of work on Matt's part to prepare for the service that would have been held a year ago. The Haftarah is a little different because when we were first going to do this, it was going to be just before a new month started. But the month cycle is different this year. So he prepared something that we're going to continue to do today anyway. You'll find it on page 1220. 1220 in the Eitz Chaim. It's the passage that would have been appropriate had this been the eve of a new month, of a new lunar month. It's not technically where we are today in the calendar cycle. However, I would argue that the whole idea of the moon being central to Jewish tradition is that the moon shrinks like the Jewish people, have shrunk, like our worlds have shrunk during this pandemic. And yet there is hope because the moon grows as well. And so this Haftarah is associated with that blessing of having the opportunity to be at the low point and see that we are coming out of something. And so I think it's very appropriate that Max do this Haftarah, despite it not being technically the one associated with this year's Parashah. The blessings are found in the prayer book, in the blue book on page 326. Max again is going to do a little bit of a sandwich, a blessing before, then the Haftarah from the Eitz Chaim, page 1220, and then a blessing afterwards. We're going to ask the Heitman family to read on page 333 in the prayer book at the top of the page, the blessings we seek. Page 333 in the prayer book at the top of the page, the blessings we seek.
Source of blessing, our guardian and hope, bless we pray all who are dear to us, watch over them with your protecting love.
Bless the people of this congregation, grant them health of body and serenity of spirit, guide them on the path of Torah and good deeds.
Bless our brothers and sisters in the land of Israel. Prosper the work of their hands and minds. Strengthen them and grant them peace.
Bless our fellow Jews wherever they may dwell, comfort those who are in distress, deliver them speedily from darkness to light.
Bless all your children in every land and community, unite them in understanding and mutual helpfulness. Hasten the day when all can rejoice in a world of peace.
And let us all say, Amen. Please turn to page 340 in the prayer book. You won't need the red book anymore. We've completed the Torah and the Haftarah. So we're now exclusively in the blue prayer book for the tail end of the service. And now we need to return the Torah scroll to the heart. So I'm going to ask that you please rise at the bottom of page 340. Here. Hallelujah, Adonai, God, Shemot Zevado, Adonai, the Shamayim, Vayaret, Kenet, Le'amo, Ilan, Le'chol, Masina, Le'nei Yisrael, Am Kerovo, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Page 346, the last three lines. Please have a seat. And that refers to everybody except for Max, because we listened to a passage that comes from one of the most difficult sections of the 5 books of Moses, this passage in Leviticus that deals with some kind of skin affliction. And if you followed along in the English as we were chanting from the scroll, you may have wondered what is the relevance of this today. And Max wants to share now with the congregation what we call a Devar Torah, words of the Torah, but meaning words that make the Torah a living document, not a something of yesteryear. So Max, would you please share your bar Torah with us? And we're going to listen very carefully, so please try to go slowly and clearly so we can all hear.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for coming. It means a lot to me. I will be talking about the connection between leprosy and slander, as well as what would have happened if you got leprosy over 3,000 years ago. Over 3,000 years ago, people took religion very seriously. In fact, they took religion so seriously, they used large amounts of resources and killed lots of animals to purify someone if they got leprosy because they thought it would cure them. Leprosy is an affliction of the skin, eyes, and nose that comes from nerves. But the Jews back then connected it to slander. Slander is talking badly about someone else. Leprosy might have been connected to slander because leprosy is an extremely contagious disease, and so is slander, but not in the way you might think. Slander is contagious in the sense that if someone starts talking badly about someone, people around them will too. When you got leprosy, you were quarantined and you had to have the blood of the bird rubbed on your right ear, thumb, and big toe. Also, they had to kill the bird over fresh water, and get red wool, piece up the wild bird, and cedar wood in the blood of that bird. The bird represents the chatter of the person that was speaking bad about someone. If you get rid of the chatter, the slander will be gone. That is how leprosy, slander, and what to do if you got leprosy over 3,000 years ago are connected. I would like to thank my family, including but not limited to my mom, my dad, my grandma, and my poppy, as well as Rabbi Jack and Marvin Day, helping me get ready for my bar mitzvah. I would like to thank all my friends and family for coming, as well as give an extra special shout out to my Bobby and Zadie, who are watching virtually right now for helping me practice my prayer.
As you call it, Max. Let me just say that those are very meaningful words, and I think Max worked hard to tie the kind of difficult language of the Torah scroll to the message that's as pertinent today as ever about slander and about speaking about others. And better than saying something unkind is to say something sweet. And even better than saying something sweet is to take something sweet and use it as a way to shower blessings on someone who is deserving of good fortune. So this would be a wonderful opportunity for you to share something sweet with them.
You can also leave it out about this.
But okay.
So, I was gonna say, okay, open your bag out. We will collect the garbage after. Open your bag. There you go.
All right. We need to. So I'm going to ask Joel and Ted Heitman to share some remarks on this occasion with Max. It's a very meaningful thing, especially with this long delay. But I'm really proud that we were able to have people join in the celebration. And I'd like to hear the remarks that the parents have prepared to share with them.
Let me ask Max to move over a little bit. Okay. Sorry, we just want to make sure that everybody on the Zoom can see. Can you guys hear me in the back there?
Yeah.
Okay, great. First of all, thank you everybody for coming. If you look around the room, this is a great collection of family and friends, new and old, and I don't mean by age. My grandfather actually made it here today. He just turned 101 last year, so. So the rabbi mentioned earlier about passing the Torah for tradition. And I just want to make some remarks on that. Because in our family, there are a lot of traditions that are passed down. You have a very rich and meaningful Chinese history, family history. You have a very rich and meaningful Jewish history. And some of those things are things we do, like holiday dinners, lighting the Hanukkah menorah, celebrating holidays, coming to services, doing community service. Some of those things in Chinese tradition, we have the exchange of Chinese red envelopes for good luck. We also have dim sum, which we're a big fan of. But beyond that, those things we do in everyday life next, some of the things that you get passed on to from both sides of your family are love, loyalty, and family. And those are the things I want you to carry forward. Your father and I want you to carry those forward in your whole life. And remember that, look at all these faces that are supporting you right now. These people will be here forever and always with you. So I hope that you enjoy life, you find things that you love to do, and you make us proud every day. That's all.
Sure, it's 4 days. Just kidding.
I'd like to ask Sherry Schwartz to come up to the Bima to make a presentation on behalf of the Jewish Center of the Bridges.
Rabbi Strong, this is not from the Jewish Center of Bridges, this is from the family of the Jewish Center of Bridges. I am so pleased and so honored and so glad to be here to be able to make this presentation. As you might know, I've known Jennifer forever. She was a high school friend of our son David, and they've kept in touch all these years. We were in touch with Jennifer through high school and college and law school, my husband and I, and then we sort of lost track of her. And miraculously, she appeared in the synagogue, and we were so fierce as this grown woman with a husband and 2 beautiful children. And it's been a joy to us to rekindle that relationship with Jennifer and the Heitman family. Jennifer has been a star in our synagogue. She is the co-president of the family. She does so much for us. Joel, of course, is our tech person, and I don't know what we would do without them, so we thank them both for their service in the synagogue. And not surprisingly, these 2 wonderful people have 2 wonderful children. So I haven't seen Max that much in the past year. I've seen him on Zoom, but I haven't seen him in person. And boy, you've grown a lot since I saw you last year. That's wonderful. He, as the rabbi said, when we have our Zoom services, Max has been a tremendous participant. He calls us to worship. He does some of the prayers. It's a shame that the Bar Mitzvah was put off by you, but he did such a wonderful job, and we're so proud of him. So here's the gift that the familyhood of the Jewish Center is giving to Max. He's looking at it, look at him, he's thinking, oh, this is electronic, it goes beep, it does something. Wrong, there was much of that. So this is the Kiddush cup. And I could tell you that this is not number 1. A Kiddush cup is not number 1 on the wish list of a 14-year-old boy in our society. Nevertheless, this is what we're giving him. And I hope, and in fact, I'm sure that he will keep this his whole long life. And although right now it's not too meaningful, it might sit on a shelf, it might be used, it might not, but the time will come when he will be an adult and he will look back on this Kiddush cup and he will remember this day and how proud we all were of him today. Thank you so much.
We have another presentation as well. I'm going to ask Kara Sultan to come up.
Mazel tov, Max, Mazel tov, Jen, Joel, and Darren. This is something from the Jewish Center of Merchants to you on your bar mitzvah. Now, I'm gonna guess that if you could wish what was in this, it would be an original manuscript signed by J.K. Rowling of Harry Potter. Pretty cool. That would be cool. I don't know, but no, this is a prayer book to you. So on behalf of the Jewish Center, this is a symbol of your entrance to becoming an adult member of our congregation. So it looks like we're on the right path, and I know that you will be a Torah reader at different holidays. I know with this comes mixed feelings about not being able to be in the kids' room as much, run around and play tag, things like that. But I'm just short, I think you're smart enough to not leave those things behind. You come from a wonderful family. The rabbi mentioned hope. Today is about hope. I think it's so great to see faces and people. You realize that the pandemic has been part of us, on all of us. And to be here today, Jen and Joel, you pulled off almost, it's not over yet, a wonderful event that allowed us all to come in here and be safe and celebrate something that we've been waiting for. So it's all your efforts, your hard work. You guys, as Sherry said, are lights in our synagogue. Many, many things wouldn't happen without Jen and Joel. And I always know Jen will send me a text and tell me what to do, and I'll do it. So I like that. The mazel tov to you, and enjoy the special day. The sun is out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. And I bet you everybody in this room is not too unfamiliar with what you're mentioning. And if I could just remind Sherry, if you could check on the beverages, and Kara, if you could just check on outside the church.
So if there's any cloud, Kara, I think it's your responsibility to get it on.
I listen to directions.
So I would like to share some remarks too, as we bring the service to a close, Matt. This past week, we observed the 73rd birthday of the state of Israel. And in honor of that, I decided to read a biography of Theodore Herzl. Theodore Herzl was a major figure in the establishment of the state of Israel. He didn't live to see it, but he had a huge influence on the fact that there is the state of Israel today. I learned in reading this book that his bar mitzvah portion was Tazria Mitzorah, if you can believe it, Matt. So you have the same birthday portion and the same bar mitzvah Shabbat as Theodore Herzl. It is very cool. You have a 1 in 54 shot of getting the same one. But when I read that, I thought, that's amazing. What does that tell us? What does that tell us? You know, we've talked a lot about traditions that are coming to you from the past. One of those traditions Jen spoke eloquently about on the Chinese side. You also have the Jewish tradition, which you are part of in this service today, and you now are linked to Theodore Herzl in a way that few people are. But you know, it's not all about the past. At this point, it's now about the future. And I want you to realize that though we've been telling you all sorts of things that are important that come from traditions, you're now the generation that will establish the future of the Jewish people. And I feel confident that your addition to the adult ranks of the Jewish community worldwide, your addition is a wonderful blessing. And I'll tell you when I first realized that. It was standing right here more than a year ago when we used to have Friday night services here in the building. And we called up a bunch of kids to open the ark. And you can imagine there's 2 doors, there's 1 pole, maybe there's 3 jobs, and several kids came up. And it looked like it was going to be a problematic situation. There was one much younger child than the others who came up. There was no way he was going to get a part in this honor. And I will never forget that you said, let this boy have the job of opening the heart. It moved me very much, I have to tell you. Never had I imagined that somebody of your young age, 12 at the time, would have the maturity and the sensitivity to recognize that sometimes people need a hand and they need a leg up, and otherwise they'll just get lost by the wayside. That is so, so powerful, Matt. And I feel confident that your adoption of Jewish tradition, of the Chinese tradition, is not just a backward-looking thing, but you will take your heritage to great heights with the tremendous personality, skills, sensitivity that you bring to the world. It was a very moving experience for me then. It's moving for me right now too when I think back. So I would like to offer on behalf of the congregation, on behalf of the Jewish community worldwide, these familiar words that are the priestly benediction, and they express all of our hopes for you for the future. Enough with the looking back. We're looking forward, and I think we're looking forward with confidence because of your wonderful ability. May Adonai bless you and protect you. May Adonai show you kindness and be gracious to you. May Adonai bestow favor upon you and grant you peace, grant you health, grant you a long life where you continue to do the wonderful things that you've already done up to this point, and teach others to do the same. Isa Adonai Panav Elecha V'yasem Lecha Shalom. Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov U'Mazel Tov Siman Tov 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 Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov U'Mazel Tov Siman We're going to close our service by turning to page 402 in the prayer book. Please rise as Max leads us in Alain, page 402. Page 404. So this joyous occasion is also one of sadness because we recall those who are not here with us, not because they're not on Zoom, but because they're no longer on this planet. And it is part of our tradition to reflect on those who have passed away, to keep their memory alive, to preserve the teachings that they shared with us. So we're going to turn now to page 410. I'm going to mention the following names of individuals from the Jewish Center, the Mariches, whose anniversary of their deaths occurred within this week. In years past, the following individuals are recalled: David McCransky, Ida Hirsch, Edith Weiss, Tilly Sharp, Selma Kiss, Hyman Goldstein. Are there others who should be remembered at this time?
Harriet Francisco and Andrea Stilka.
Thank you. The mourner's cottage is found on page 410. If you are a mourner or observing the anniversary of the death of a loved one, I'll ask that you please rise, page 410. Yitgadal v'yitkadosh shemei Rabbah, v'yalmad yivarach Yerushalayim v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayei kom yomei kom, v'chayei defol beit Yisrael, v'agalah v'bizman karib v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam v'olnei almayah. Yitvarach v'yishtabach, v'yipatar v'yiprolam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaled v'yitalal shmei kudusha b'ritu. La'ela v'yinkol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Ya'amiran ve'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom v'roma. Uya oseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amen. And may their memories be a blessing for all of us. So our service comes to a close now. Are there announcements that you need to make, Jim?
Thank you. How did you guess that? Okay, everybody. Again, after this, we are going to be serving some bagels and items outside. So you can all exit through the back. And when you get into the hallway, make a left out the back of the temple building, and then walk around the building into the front. And we're just going to remind everybody, if you can, when you're sitting to eat, with your mask off, please try to stay socially distanced from another party. And everybody can take turns sitting on the tables. We also have some other chairs that are set out. You can feel free to move the chairs into different areas where you feel comfortable. And I think that is all for everybody. We do have an entertainer. So we have some entertainment, so stick around for that.
Are there other announcements that need to be made?
One more thing, Rabbi. If everybody can take this blue Siddur and just put it into the pocket under your seat, that would be very helpful for us. And on your way out, if you can put the red book in the back on the table, that would be helpful.
I think that is it. So we're going to close with a song. We're going to close with a song, and even if you don't speak any Hebrew at all, I expect that you will figure this one out. The words are Shabbat Shalom, which means that you have a peaceful, joyous, healthy Sabbath, and may this be a memorable Sabbath for joy for all of us as we have welcomed Max officially into the adult community of Jews worldwide. Shabbat Shalom, 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 Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Bobby.
Hey, Ira and Carol.
Happy birthday.
Max will always be able to say, it's Marissa and his Bubby's birthday on the same day.
Awesome.
Wonderful thing to share.
Yes. I didn't know whether he would settle down.
He did wonderful.
What did they throw? I've never.
Candy.
It's candy. They didn't do that at the boys' bar mitzvahs.
Oh, we did it at our kids. They loved it.
Did they? Yeah. It wasn't something they did. I thought it was wonderful how they brought both traditions.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going outside for lunch. I don't think you all want to see lunch. But you guys can stay here and chat away.
Well, they'll have to have a bagel for us today.
Yes, they will. They will. You guys look good.
Well, so do you.
How are you feeling?
Better. Wish we could have made the trip, but a year ago we would have been able to make it.
Well, what would we do without all these electronics?
Yeah. Anyway. Hey Meg, how you doing?
We're good. I was gonna say you might not be able to be there to see what's going on outside, but I can tell you, I helped Max name all his food and beverage items after Harry Potter inspired names. So they're having gillyweed and black lake special and dragon egg salad.
Oh, really?
Wow.
How
exciting.
Yeah, well, for him it's exciting.
Yeah. It was fun. I spent the week naming food items.
Oh, you're eating.
You're the culprit.
What are you eating from the luncheon?
Not the same thing, but I decided I'd eat lunch at the same time.
Very nice. Well, I'll tell you, that little one just had a ball bouncing on the couch.
My gosh. I was like, Audrey, you're gonna be the death of me. But she had a great time. She was really good until she started kicking her foot up at the end. And I was like, put your foot down.
Yes.
But they both did good for kids. Audrey was fascinated by the singing. Every time they started singing, she was just like, oh.
It was too bad the reception wasn't, the audio
Yeah.
was muffled. I wonder how it'll be on YouTube.
Yeah, I hope the recording is crisp.
Yeah. Anyway, everybody looked good.
It was beautiful.
The forward tradition for that family will be interesting.
Yeah.
So, anyway, it was good to see everybody. This mama's going to take a rest. And we will talk to you guys another time.
You guys stay well.
Enjoy your day.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love to everyone. Bye.
Love
Bye.
you guys. Bye.